del 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 test test test. test, test. You see the 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 testa testo essa testo essa testo essa testo essa testo essa Test, 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 test. Test.
So it's not OBS, it's the audio interface. I think now you can see it's the audio interface or the cable of the audio interface.
So much for the Elvis introduction treatment. Okay. Everybody ready to talk about headlines? Okay, we'll do that next week. I'm kidding. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is a shorter version of what I normally do, because I know I don't want to run too long. Sometimes I can do that, but I might, go off on a tangent, so forgive me. Again, feel free to, so the other thing I want to talk about, which is, for a lot of you, this is a little bit off topic of headlines, but it is still on topic with headlines when you're getting training, is a lot of people don't understand that the very best way to teach something is called the EDGE method. It is explain, demonstrate, guide, and enable. So a book explains something, explains that a headline should have features and benefits, right? Or not features and benefits, that's bullets. It should have benefits and curiosity or something like that. Demonstrating is usually a book or video showing you how you write headlines. Guiding is actually working with somebody as they're working through and writing their headlines and saying, okay, see now we're going to adjust this and we're going to do stuff like that. Enabling is, of course, now you do it on your own, and then you adjust in feedback. And this is what you do with no matter what you teach, in every way whatsoever. And the expensive part is the enabling and the feedback and the guidance part. That's your own personal time with your clients and stuff that you have. I can only do explain and demonstrate here. Okay, because I would have to have you come up here and write a headline and stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that you can't get available to people who will coach you and teach you stuff like that. But remember that, because when you're dealing with your own clients or yourself, you can explain, you can demonstrate, and demonstration is more powerful than explanations. People seeing you do something live. One of my father's courses is very special because he's actually explaining and demonstrating as he's writing a full-page ad. But he couldn't guide and enable because, again, you would have to do that. So I can only do explain and demonstrate. But just know that in your own business, that the value of it is ranked on. Explaining should be the lower priced, info product that you got. Demonstrating it should be worth a little bit more. Here's a video showing you exactly how I do it. Guidance is hiring me to do that, and then enabling is the feedback. And where you get really good is in the enabling. It is the feedback and then adjustments that you do. That's why coaching is so valuable. That is why mentorships are so valuable and stuff like that. And plus, it's time consuming, so it's also something that's expensive. The other thing I want you to know about this is we're going to talk about, you can use this, what I'm going to teach you, if you're using AI to write your headlines, what I'm going to teach you here is still valuable to fix, to punch up, to improve what AI is going to spit out for you when you say, give me 10 headlines. And one thing I will say, it's not in the slides, is when Brian did something yesterday when he was using the AI, which I do often, which is they say, give me 10 headlines that are based on this or that, give me 10 more. Give me 10 more. I do that, and then what I'm looking for is the one that sparks an idea, and then I will use what I'm going to teach you now to make that a much better headline. This is also a process that deals with expanding and contracting, okay? So it's just because this is your big worthy headline, you're going to see this in when I talk about it. But this won't be too long around our side. I'm going to give you 3 things. I'm going to give you a quick hack. I'm going to give you a basic template that is the basic structure of something good for a headline, and then I'm going to give you a structure where you can sit down and write just dozens of headlines. And my goal is to make it so that you don't, you can just sit down and start doing this process and spitting out headlines without, excuse me, waiting for ideas to pop in your head. And that's the kind of the old school way, which isn't a bad thing to do. It's just, and headlines will still pop in your head. Okay, so let's talk about headlines. Okay, elements of a good headline. You do not need all of these elements, but these are elements that you find in good headlines. Okay, and the priority is based on what customers need to hear in order to buy. That's your priority. Market level awareness and what customers need to hear in order to buy is your priority in deciding almost everything that you're putting in a marketing campaign, posts, whatever you're doing to make sales. Some of these factoids that I'm going to share with you can fit in more than one category. You'll see that. So just because you're like, hey, wait a minute, shouldn't this be in one category? No, this kind of does double duty, and you'll understand that in a second. Okay, so authority is something that's important in a headline. Okay, so authority is, if I tell you that I'm going to teach you on some advice on auto mechanics, I have no authority in that whatsoever. I'm the last person you should be reading or should be listening to about that. I'm going to be, I'm useless for that. So, and if I'm, but you have to explain that to people. They have to see why, oh, this person probably knows this. So a lot of times people would hire celebrities, but that was just to build trust and say, well, I don't think that celebrity would risk their reputation, but to promote something that really wasn't worthy. That's not true, by the way. You could hire them to, it's a whole different thing that we could go into. There were literally techniques that I learned about when I was younger about how you can get celebrities to endorse stuff even when their managers were against it. But authority means, this is somebody, I think that they might be able to be trustable. Okay, and so authority is also kind of, why should they believe this headline from this person, this group, this study? So authority isn't just a group, it could be, or one person, it could be researchers at Harvard, it can be stuff like that. And we're going to give you examples of this. And it's more important when there's lots of competition. So, and I'll give you examples of that. So it's like, when everybody's trying to teach you Facebook ads, there's more authority when you say the $1.3 billion Facebook ad man, who spent that much money, that's an authority. Okay, so you're like, okay, yeah, that's more important. So when there's lots of competition, this is more important. It's also more important when failure is serious, and I mean failure as in this doesn't, I know I harp on this a lot because I guess, but if it's a health problem where failure to solve the health problem is going to lead to a lot of disaster, so it's more important that you are talking about the top, oncologist is the authority that you're using. Okay. Newsy is another really important part about headlines, okay? And it's, there's a lot of good reasons for it. It's what makes the offer special or timely. This also adds to another element I'm going to talk about, which is kind of sense of urgency. This is something that's happening, right? So newsy makes it sound like this isn't something that's just happened. And here's a tip I'm going to say. I don't know if it's in here. I don't think it is. I use present progressive all the time, which is the ing form of words. Okay, so it's just turn around and say, Ben has helped, many business owners who are, struggling with balancing work life and growth and relationships. That's a lot different when I said Ben is helping. Do you understand the difference between that subtle difference? It's like this is happening now. It's not somebody that did something in the past. So, so I like using the ing verbs and stuff and making things newsy and making them happy right now. And so if you have, so again, if AI spits out something and you're like, I can make this better using the present progressive term of the verb, okay? It's always important for attention because newsy is what gets our attention. We've been trained to pay attention to things that are happening in news-like. Okay, benefit is also another thing. So that's calling out the exact benefit. And again, you don't need to do all of these things. Benefit's really important. The very classic one is that everybody teaches is that, benefit and curiosity go into headlines. Okay, and what's the benefit that you're implying, or it is very obvious to the person that's applicable to your prospect? Okay, so what is the benefit to the customer? And it's often from your USP. Okay, so, and again, things can be double duty. So your benefit could be, the secret, the trick that helps you triple your open rates. And by the way, the hack that I'm going to give you has helped people triple their open rates back in the day. I think it still works. It's just that people are getting better and better at that stuff. But it's most important when the benefit is not obvious that you need to spell out the benefit. This is another marketing important piece of information. Never assume that they're going to automatically think the smart thing you have to give everybody their thoughts, okay? So you need to explain, you need to say what's the benefit of that. So if I teach you how to get higher open rates, you would think that everybody would automatically know that that means more viewership, more sales. No, you have to say, giving you more attention, getting you more sales. You have to explain this to people. But so the benefit, make sure that it is obvious to them, and it's part of the headline. Okay, and then there's the benefit of the benefit. That's what I was just kind of explaining. And so we turn around and we say, hey, the benefit of the open rates going higher is more attention, more sales. The benefit of better exposure, more authority. What's the benefit of that? The benefit is it's easier to make sales. The benefit of the speech I gave yesterday is because it's a lot easier to convert people when they go and look you up and they see that you know what you're talking about. You can't just say how to build, you got to tell them, I'm going to show you how to build authority. You have to say, and this is why it's important to build the authority. Don't ever assume it. In the old days, we would literally, the ads would say, pick up the phone and dial now. We gave them instructions that were so specific, and we told them every little benefit that they were going to get. Because you want to, at all your marketing, you kind of want to give everybody their thoughts. You don't want them to have to stop and think. In fact, by the time, and I know this is one of my rambling things, is, when we would handle objections in the copy, I would say, this is about the point where I'd be wondering this. So I would answer that objection by pretending it was a question, making a statement that was the answer, and moving it just above where they would be asking that. So they never even got to the point of asking that question. And so give them their thoughts. Okay. This is not my Mac, so sometimes you got to push it harder. Come on. There we go. Curiosity. So curiosity is not giving away the thing. So if you turn around and you say, well, the trick to having a healthy relationship business, thing is open communication and having a good, setting aside good quality time that you don't do anything. People then think they don't need to read the rest of it, right? So you have to have some curiosity that makes them want to go and continue reading what you've written. Okay, so hint at what they will discover reading and watching your marketing message. Sales message is a better way to put it. It's most important when using a medium where lots of businesses are competing for attention, okay? And again, there's bleed over here, so I don't want you to think this is, oh, okay, so I have to use this part. But these are all the things that I will be considering. Numbers. This is a really powerful thing. And numbers can be any numbers. They make the claims feel more real. So if I say to you that I have, I did an e-commerce business and we did 6 figures last month, that sounds pretty impressive. If I say we did an e-commerce business and I made $130,000 last month, if I turn around and say we made $134,000, if I say we made $134,000 and 68 cents in profit, which sounds the most real? Yeah, absolutely. So the more specific your number, and the numbers can be any number. They can be a weight, they can be a date, they can be any number that you can throw in there, right? I've helped 67 entrepreneurs. I've done, this and that. So whenever I can, you want to throw in numbers, because it's like that incongruent detail I talked about with the, it's such a realistic thing, because that number does not sound like you just threw a number out there. It's like, oh, wait a minute, okay, this is different. So the more specific the number, the better. And it's more important when they need to be believed. This is why when the numbers are really, really critical. Okay, urgency. Everybody is reading your sales message, trying to find a place where they can stop paying attention without feeling like they're possibly missing something out that would benefit their lives. My book on editing sales copy is designed to never make them feel complete. Like, oh no, I better continue reading because I might miss something that's valuable to making my copy a lot better. Try not to give them this until you've fueled their desire so much that they're ready to buy. But urgency makes prospects feel better. It makes prospects feel they better watch the series or message or they will miss out. And so sense of urgency is an important thing. Most important when people feel the solution is not an emergency. Okay, so, this is where you're saying, they're like, well, this is an emergency, but the solution might be going away. Okay, so, but again, this is still a good thing to do. All of these are still good to do, even when that market doesn't feel that it's an emergency, or they do feel it's an emergency. It's still gonna all of these elements help punch up headlines, and you notice it feels a lot more than like the 3 or 4 that I did. Targeted, that is literally calling out your prospects. So if your headline is, for, insurance agents that are struggling to get to this level or whatever, that the way that you're calling out the target is you want them to say, hey, that's me, okay? You want them to think that, so this is specifically to me. An example we use for this and how interested it is, if I say this is something for, something that everybody who owns a home in Los Angeles should know. Well, you kind of got my attention because I have a home in Los Angeles. If you turn around and say everybody who owns a home in Hollywood, Los Angeles, or Hollywood, California, okay, wait a minute, that's more attention to me. If you say something everybody who lives on Sierra Bonita Street needs to know, I'm going to be really opening that to find out what's going on. So the question is, how specific do you get with that target? You get right to your niche where you're not going to be losing anybody who wouldn't be your target audience. But you want to call out your target and make them say, this is me, okay? Calls out exactly who you should be paying attention to the offer. And it's important when trying to filter out non-buyers. This is a really good thing, because as they mentioned yesterday, which is really true, turning away, it helps your conversions when you're getting people to not click on it who aren't proper buyers. And so it helps the algorithm figure out who to get to you and stuff like that. But you do it in the copy as well. This is just for people who, who are building their businesses and, are at a certain level and stuff like that. So you're getting people who aren't clicking. There will still always be somebody who's like, I'm not at that level, but I still want to see what these people are doing. But it's really important. It's also very helpful to get people who are not part of your target audience to not click. Okay, risk reversal. This is sometimes you put it in there because it's kind of hard to believe. And that this is when the customers really need to feel safe buying. So this is guaranteed. We actually used to, you see this very, very infrequently now, double your money back guarantees. If this doesn't work for you, and if you send in this proof that you tried what I told you to do, and it doesn't increase your open rates, I'll send you double your money back. Okay, and the caveat was you had to prove it. Now we still did so let's suppose that this is a very, this is most important when the price makes the buying decision. A trust is a factor. People talk about how much information they need to hear to order to buy. It depends on who you target. So for me, I always consider how hard it is for the buyer to make that decision, that buying decision, and it's different for different people. And the example I like to use is if you're buying your first home, it's the largest purchase you've ever made. It is a huge investment. You know that you're stuck in there for a few years because you can't just go willy-nilly, and move everything so easily, unless you're a really good minimalist. And what happens is, so you want, how much information do you want to buy that house, especially considering usually in the US it represents like 10 years of gross income, right? You want as much information as you can. You want a binder that you can take to your experts. Well, there's another person who's a developer. In my neighborhood, they are tearing down houses left and right to build 2-story houses. The only thing that developer needs to know is the square footage of the lot. Is there asbestos in the ceiling? Because we'll have to water it down as we destroy it. That's the only 2 pieces of information they need in here in order to buy. It depends on how much that decision, right, is like. Nobody here is worried, if I say try this, it's $5. If you don't like it, your money back guarantee. That doesn't help you at all. Nobody here is really, I hope, nobody here really cares about, risking $5. But if you turn around and you're asking for somebody to give 10% of their yearly income to something, they care more about, feeling safe. And people want to feel safe. There are sometimes they just don't want to feel stupid. So what it is when these companies do, we're going to give you, if you find it selling somewhere else, we'll give you that back plus 10, the difference back plus 10%. It just makes you feel safe that you're not going to feel embarrassed that you could have gotten this, 100-inch television for $400 cheaper somewhere else. Okay, so again, risk reversal is not something you always put in the headline, but sometimes you do, and the results are guaranteed, kind of a thing. Okay, proof, some sort of proof element. And again, your authority can be your proof. It could be the studies, it could be any evidence that the claims are real. Again, you do not, I'm going to say this over and over, you do not need to put all of these in a headline because this can make a headline really long, right? But these are all things you consider putting in there. Okay, so it's most important when the claim is really hard to believe. Like, really, can you do that? Okay, well, here's, and so you kind of allude to the proof that's in there. Okay, so just putting these in here, and then I'll let you take a picture. Authority, newsy, benefit, curiosity, numbers, urgency, targeted, risk reversal, and proof. Go ahead and take a shot if you want. What's going to happen next is I'm going to give you a really basic template. Now, this was actually Caleb, I want to give credit to Caleb O'Dowd. I knew this before, but he put it into words in a way that made me go, okay, yeah, that's right, I remember, because what we do is we'd recognize the pattern in some of the great campaigns, the great record-breaking campaigns. And so, by the way, yeah, some of these facts can be in more than one category. Okay, so your authority, okay, so for example, your numbers and your proof could be the same after $1.3 million in testing, right? That's numbers and that's proof. Okay, so here's a basic yet effective headline. Authority doing something newsy which gives benefit to target. Okay, so top marketing experts are helping business, helping business. It doesn't have to be in this order or anything. Are helping 6-figure business owners grow to the next level. So I'm talking, and the more specific you get. So are helping. People who are teaching personal coaches, or people who are teaching, or helping this get to the next level. So you're targeting out. The more specific you are in these, and the more targeted you get, the better off you're going to be. Okay, so $1.7 billion ad man is revealing results of 16 January split tests to help business owners extend the life of promotions in 2026. Do you see how that, it's like, okay, that calls out the targets, it tells you who's the benefit, and there's some curiosity in that and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you how you come up. This is a basic yet effective headline. Now I'm going to take you through a complicated, more like I'm a very serious, I've got time and I'm working on this campaign, and then I'm going to show you a hack that you can use, like you need to come up with a subject line or a headline in 5 minutes. No. What's that? Yep. So that's the part is giving away, is opening the doors, that's the newsy part. You understand what I'm saying? We good? No problem. And by the way, I'm glad she did that. Anybody says, hey, can you slow down? Let me take a picture. Just raise your hand. I'll absolutely let you do that. Okay. So what I do is I create this like little matrix thing. Okay, and so, so I put these up here in the top, and you're going to see there's multiple ways that you can turn around with your business. And so the authority, say that again? Yes, headline bingo. So the authority, these are all the different ways that I could turn around and say authority. I could say, you know, A-list copywriter, Gary Halbert star protege, top copy instructor, first family of copy, sons of the goat, you know. That should be capitalized, I'll go. But, and this is just what I put down there. This literally, I could go on for, I have a whole list of things that could list it as something for our business that is authority. And you can think of different ways to say this, which is something I'm gonna talk about, hold on, just a note to make sure that I don't forget to show you guys, or teach you guys. Okay, so Newsy. Okay, so this is basically almost always like your offer and what you're doing. So, but it could be revealing, doing their first coaching program. And you see, I haven't turned this into a headline or, you know, a coherent paragraph or anything like that. First coaching program, brand new. What makes this something that's happening now, okay? And I wouldn't say this is a brand new program and then you know, when people are going to find out it's been on sale for 10 years, okay? You know, then I would adjust that. Okay, hidden lessons. Okay, so this is also, by the way, so that's Curiosity and Newsy at the same time. Okay, so you're going to see that what I mean by these things can be floated back and forth. Okay, so the benefit, you know, was going to help our customers write copy faster, put them on the fast track to becoming an A-list copywriter, to write better copy. These things, you know, make it easier to do. This is often, it often can be derived from your USP, your unique selling proposition, what makes you the person to you know, why you would want to learn it from me versus somebody else. Okay. Curiosity, so again, I just put a new thing, brand new tricks, recently developed techniques, behind the scenes. None of these, for the most part, are numbers. They're not new, you know, they're not newsy. They are just pure curiosity. Gary Halbert secrets. Okay, so, and then you're like, okay, well, there must be some benefit in there if you know who he is. Never before seen. This is curiosity, and that's what's going to make them go, okay, I want to find out more about this. Numbers. Actually, that should be, late 2025, 13 lessons, 42 years. And I just threw these out. I could go on and on and on and on with these. Okay, but I'm going to show you how I string these together. And then the sense of urgency. So you all, this is really, really important. People do not do enough of this, of their sense of urgency in their marketing. If you do not kick people off the fence, you are losing out on a huge amount of your buyers and your prospects and your money, and your conversion is just low. So sense of urgency, create one. Even if you don't have a legitimate one, just say, you know, it could be for, you know, every week that you wait longer to deal with this problem with your spouse, you know, lowers the chances of you being able to solve the problem. Right? That's the. Well, it's the scarcity is also urgency as well. Basically, we consider them interchangeable because scarcity says you better get it now or else you're doing it. I'm opening the door to just 15 people. That makes it a sense of urgency. You understand what I'm saying? But there's a sense of urgency that you create it's really part of it. I'm only opening the door to 15 people, and there's the sense of urgency of the faster, if I can increase your results as a marketer by 10%, what does that mean over the life of the rest of your marketing? And create real ones. I have a very real one, which is I'm going to get bored and stop teaching this and go do something else. Because what you guys seen today, and this isn't a brag thing or anything, I'm just somebody who gets bored easily. You're seeing 3 of many different kinds of, you know, these types of trainings that I do. But again, I don't think I've ever given any one of these more than 4 or 5 times. So targeted to copywriters, to business owners who need good ads, to Facebook advertisers, to online marketers. This should be kind of congruent with who you have targeted and selected your ads to be shown by, or who your leads are that are going to be seeing your sales message. Okay, risk reversal. First training is free, you know, so that you can come get a taste of it for free, or each video is worth the whole training. You know, but a better one be, and if you don't like the first 2 trainings, you can get your money back and bail out. Preston's risk reversal is there's no monthly minimum, you know, so that means you're not locked in, you know, so at, you know, $5 a month, because most courses will turn around and say, you know, it's only $19.97 a month, but you have to buy 10 months. Right, so that's kind of a risk reversal. So don't think all it has to be money back guaranteed. That's why I didn't put it in there. It can be lots of different ways to make you. It's what makes you feel safe, if possibly making this decision. Okay, proof. The techniques I've taught actually have been used by Agora writers to get them to ahead in the very highly competitive environment of Agora. You know, and I put in the research video, I didn't put it, it's, you know, a research video I did on marketing is one of the most, you know, acclaimed research video, copywriting research videos ever created. Everybody go ahead and take a picture, because I can see everybody is taking a picture. I was wondering why people weren't taking a picture before. You're waiting for me to fill this out. It makes sense. It makes sense. Well, you never, like I said, yeah, no. I saw some of my handouts like sitting around. I was like, oh, they didn't pick up the handout. And then I found out, oh, they were taking pictures of the handout. It's easier to carry. So, okay, I think everybody's got. Yeah. It was an open loop. Okay, I think we got everybody taking the picture. Okay, so how'd I string these to Gary? Gary Halbert's son is revealing 13 brand new tricks guaranteed to have you writing A-level copy by May of 2026, but better hurry as the price is set to double and members are already seeing big wins. Do you like that? Okay. And so this would obviously be more of a landing page one, right? You know, but by the way, you're going to see in this process, I expand, I contract, okay? And so this is something that happens, but I can string together another group of these. So I contracted this and I made this lead-in. The lead-in, this was called an eyebrow. It's still called an eyebrow for landing pages. And for print, we did it as eyebrows. Members are already seeing big gains. I just moved that up. I made the headline in there, but nobody's going to read that headline and not read that eyebrow. Okay, so I'm still getting that point across and I'm contracting a little bit. You know, Gary Halbert's son is revealing 13 brand new tricks guaranteed to have anyone writing A-level copy by the end of 2025. Okay, which by the way is really soon, so you better hop on it, right? This is another version of it. Even world's biggest advertisers are stealing his tricks. That's the proof from Agora. Okay, so you see how I took the thought that I wanted to put in there, and then I wrote it out as the eyebrow. And then I put top copy instructor. I used a different authority. This is a different set that I've chosen from that matrix table, whatever you want to call it. Okay, top copy instructor's revolutionary new techniques are slashing years off the time it takes to create record-breaking Facebook ads. Revolutionary new, that's the newsy part, right? Okay, and so it is going to go for, and I could say for I can expand this and say to call out a specific target for Facebook advertisers, or I can contract it because it's getting a little too long. Don't feel limited to it. And by the way, I was talking earlier with Max and FA, and what you want to do is test 3 different headlines. One of the things you'll notice is I could write the body copy and just have the very beginning be the exact same, but all my bullets, all my desire, because it's attention, interest, desire, and action, all of my desire and, you know, compelling people to act and all that could all be the same, and I'm really testing these 3 different hooks. So if you're trying to get ads to work and convert, the headline is the first thing you want to test 3 different things. The headline, that hook, and that intro. In fact, I was telling this story yesterday. It was really funny. And I got this story from Dan Kennedy. So I know Dan Kennedy hired my father to fix one of his ads. And he goes, how do I make this better? And then he paid my dad a lot of money, and he didn't hear back from my dad for a long time. Finally called my dad and said, hey, you know, I paid you a lot of money. You know, how do I make this copy better? And he goes, increase the headline 25% in size. Dan Kennedy got all pissed off. He's like, you know what? I'm going to run this thing, and then I'm going to, like, you know, either go demand my money back or tell everybody. He did it. He increased it 25%, and you know what happened. It worked. Because his gut experience was this showed differently as an ad, and you needed to call, this needed to stand out on the page more. But my whole point is that was just a size change, right? So the difference in testing out 3 different headlines. Remember, I said this before, I'll say it again and again and again. Marketing, especially direct response marketing, is testing. So try 3 different headlines. Family tradition of copywriting breakthroughs continues. Halber Brothers are proving they can teach anyone how to pump out more effective promotions than top ad agencies. Okay, so one of these might get you, where one of them doesn't, but I'm going to test which one's the most effective out of 3 of them, okay? And then, again, I just need to kind of change the very beginning and the opening of it. And if you were doing this with emails, you know, making much shorter ones, of course, and we'll talk about, this trick I'm going to give you next is not a whole complete training on subject lines, but it will also work for subject lines as well as headlines. These are just a little too long to be subject lines. Okay, new system from Copywriting Rockstar reveals the 13 simple tricks anyone can use to beat top ad agencies, even if you failed high school English. Okay? So this is ideas that are sparked from those things that I was mentioning that are in the, I call it a matrix, but in the table, whatever we want to call it. You know what? I'm going to call it headline bingo. Trademark. Say it again? Oh, okay. Well, I wish I could say Sandra gave it to me. Yeah.
Would you consider the even-ifs risk aversions?
Yeah. I would say, and I would consider that even if, you know, you don't, like how to, you know, even if you're starting with a budget of under, a promotional budget under $1,000, you're getting people to turn around and say, you know, what, that is, okay, so we'll go on a little tangent here. So you figure out what are the people's objections or what are their concerns, what makes them think this could not possibly be for me, and then you do even if. And again, you remember when I said take them from a place that's worse than they were to a place that's better than they dare dreamed, right? So what's worse than them? Well, you know, I failed high school English. I can't write copy, right? That's not true, okay? And again, so what happens is AI turns around and spits out something and you're like, you know what, this needs this, you know, this portion of it for, you know, people who failed high school English, or these people who don't think that they're good with words, or people who's, you know, so I'll tell you one that would be really good for my business is people whose English is not their first language. Yeah, or for people whose English is their second language, because there's so many people who want to be copywriters, you know, and, you know, and the truth is, the question is, can I make that true? And it's really simple to make true. You can actually, this is one of the great tools of AI. You can say, write this in American style English, right? I've actually done this and said, write this in Australian English, and I tested it because I watch a lot of like British, you know, shows and Australian shows. And I wrote specifically, you know, about garbage cans and all this, and you know, and it would change pharmacists to chemists, and it would change garbage cans to bins, to rubbish bins, and stuff like that. It works in reverse. So this actually is a way that you can take people who are working, you know, and producing copy or whatever in other places, and I can make that true. So we were talking last night about what it is that makes really marketing specialists and experts. It's not really as much creativity with words. It's understanding other people, being able to, you know, tap into their prospects. It is also, you know, but it's also problem solving. Like, you know, how can I make this true? So my brother and I have what we call, we write dream copy. And then we, you know, and then sometimes to make that true, I can think of a solution to fix that. And if I can't, then I back it down to something realistic. And again, I'm always ethical. I would not say something that I would be mad at somebody saying that and promising that to my own mother. Okay, so be ethical. But my point is, write the dream copy, and then sometimes you can have it come true, right? And so an example I used in my book was, you know, those sticks that you throw, you know, balls with for your dog to go catch and everything. You know, you're writing that and you're saying, you know, and you hear that the other competitions, you know, they break pretty easily. And then you say, this one's made with a higher, stronger polymer plastic that won't break. Then you call your engineer team or whatever and you say, can we do this? And if they say yes, you leave it in there and you pay a little more for that USP. If they can't, you don't say it. So I wouldn't lie. So this is a really long one. Each training gives copy cubs a huge advantage over seasoned pros. The private program copywriters inside America's largest direct response company, that was Agora at the time, are secretly using to stay ahead of their peers in the most competitive marketing environment on earth. This, by the way, is actually true. Sorry, somebody was taking a picture. But again, so it depends on how much, and now if you got your target prospect to a landing page, they will read that headline. So a lot of people make a mistake in their copy. There's another copywriting trick is they say, you know, my dad started this. He said he had 5 editing tricks.
So you have a timer there?
Oh, so I should shut up?
No.
Okay.
I drew that penis for you because I love you.
Okay. So what they would do is, so that he would say, you know, write in short sentences. So everybody's now trying to write 1-sentence paragraphs, right? And it's like, wait a minute, that's not, you know, that's not really, there's a rhythm to it, and that's not making you want to read the next sentence. So good news for online advertisers, Newsy. 13 hidden lessons discovered in Gary Halbert ads are giving new and veteran advertisers an unfair advantage with Facebook ads. Okay, so just so that we get through this, I'm now going to, then what you want to then do is add emotion when you can and end frustration. These are the kinds of things that you want to do, you know, providing relief, and if you can stick those into the headlines, you're better off. And boost confidence in that they can do it. So that was why you put in, you know, for people who failed high school English. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a simple hack, and this will be very quick. So the way this happened, and this is a concept that I talk about, which is I'm, you know, I don't go, I'm my target audience, but I do say that if I'm going through this process and I'm feeling this, I think other people are doing it. So if I feel like, you know, my speech is too long, you're feeling like my speech is too long. But so what happened one day is, this is a long time ago, my brother and I were both going to check our emails, and we said, you know, I try to go check my email, and I get sucked in by these headlines and these news stories and the stupid AOL, like, you know, news feed and everything. And we grew up with a guy who talked in clickbait headlines, our father, and I'm like, if this can grab our attention, it can grab anybody's attention, because we're the most immune to this stuff. So model after news clickbait headlines. You know, when I talked about swipe files, everybody was stealing their, and you know, the stuff that their competitors are actually doing, okay? I looked at this stuff, and this wasn't just ads. These were the news little things. And so I'm going to give you a couple of sources. National Enquirer is great in the celebrity section for the stuff when it's a brand is about a person. So it's about me, it's about Mitch Miller, it's about, you know, your specific, not your business, but you're a personality. Okay, and AOL is a great source for these. I'm going to show you an example of how to do this. So is Yahoo. Digg used to be fantastic, but now they're under construction and doing something different. But you can do this with almost any news source now, because news is so competitive that all of them have turned to clickbaity kind of news headlines, okay? And so here's an example. No. Somebody said the power of no, right? No, of course I will. So a simple hack. Okay, so nationalenquirer.com, this was in the celebrity section. Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are being, you know, much more private about romances following steamy pics. I've turned that into Mitch and Brian are being much more private about newly discovered marketing secrets. Okay, so do you see that? Now these are short, so these are better for subject lines, right? And this will be done really fast. Okay, so the other thing I really like about these is this little section that says read more and stuff like that. They'll often put in there, sometimes it won't just say read more, it'll be a continuation of the curiosity, and it makes for a good preview line in your emails. Okay, so jewels stolen from the Louvre include imperial crowns and necklaces. Secrets stolen from Miller Mastermind include hacks for great offers and beating AI. Okay, so I just took the curiosity and the benefit, and I adapted these things to make it, this is a hack for, somebody has given me stuff, and they're like, okay, we've written this email, we need a subject line. And I've gone through here, and I'm like, popped one up in like 2 minutes. Because when you look at this, you see how many there is? 9 of 55. So 1 or 2 of those is going to fit what you need, You know what I'm saying? So it might not be the first one, it might be the second, but it's not going to take you to go, you're not going to have to go through all 55 to get to them. Okay, top card for Americans with good credit. This one happened to be an ad. Top mastermind for business owners with good offers. Okay, and then you can literally say, take a closer look. NFL winners and losers. Miami's loss is bad news for coach and his quarterback. Purely news. Meta ad winners and losers. Our clients' wins are bad news for their competition. Okay, this is going to get people to open your emails. It's also good headlines. It's, you know, so this is much more, you know, usable for smaller space ad venues like, you know, meta ads and stuff like that. Police have been quiet about the body found in D4VD's car. Internet sleuths have not. Members have been silent about secrets found in the Miller mastermind. Okay, so remember, sparking ideas is really what you need to have done for you. And you see how this sparks the ideas that you can do? Okay, the truth about alcohol and your health according to data. Dry January gaining popularity. The truth about ad fatigue according to the data. Okay. The Fed hits pause button on rates cuts. Here's what it means for your money. Meta just added new features. What it means for your ads. Okay. So putting it all together, mix up these systems. Try using one, see if it sparks, and then what you do is you then add the other elements that you might, that, you know, using this, you can use this and then add stuff to punch it up. So punch it up, add, subtract, play around with it, and then run what you think are the 3 best, okay? So going back, these are the ones that I said, okay, I like these kind of, you know, I started eliminating the ones that I thought were weaker. And then I would, you know, say this one's for this one, I like this one for this one, and so forth. And then you came up with, you know, you come up with the other headlines. Okay, so I reduced it even further, right? So this is the first part of the system. And then when you're putting it all together, one student already used them to beat a top copywriter. Top copywriting coach is revealing 7 never-before-seen Gary Halbert lessons for copywriters who need to beat AI. That's a hybrid of using both systems. Okay, so bonus tip, use biblical references. This is going to be my last slide, so I'm not going to run over. So biblical references, for some reason, they're built into our DNA or something. I don't know why, but they really work well. So when I wanted to tie my book to other books after doing it for the first time, I wrote a subject line for an email, and I said the Holy Trinity of copywriting. I didn't say the top 3 copywriting books. I said the Holy Trinity. We had an unscrubbed list, so we didn't even clean it, of people who hadn't been opening it since the 90s, and we ran this in the 2000s. And this is back when, you know, open rates were very accurate. It holds the record on the Gary Halbert site for the highest open rate ever. So remember, unscrubbed means that if we scrubbed it, it would have been higher. 54% open rate. And so think about this, you can almost all adapt the Holy Trinity of copywriting books to your own business. The Holy Trinity of, you know, dating coaches' secrets, or the Holy Trinity of whatever, you know, you can adapt this. The Holy Trinity of, you know, horror book story arcs. You know what I'm saying? And who's interested in a horror book that's not gonna open that email? You know, nobody. So, so online mecca for copywriters, that's what I call, you know, I call the Gary Halbert letter. I say it's the online, you know, it's where everybody comes to it. Okay, and then the third one, the 4 horsemen of the AI apocalypse. That's what I talked about with the last one. I said, you know, what happens with, you know, the Andromeda update, you know, algorithm update. I was like, okay, so this is causing conversions to fall. This is causing the price in the competition to raise. You know, this is causing, you know, the competition in AI is creating such a fast click and copy environment, and is causing all these problems. So I just listed off, you know, 4 problems that, you know, it was causing, and then talked about what the solution was for that. So I have 1 minute for any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Say that again? Okay, maybe. Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I intend to be completely available and help all of you. So, but I'm hoping now that what you do is you look at this process and you say, I can now just put together this matrix, put together these things, it's gonna spark ideas, and I'm gonna be able to spit out a lot of headlines. The old way of teaching headlines was say feature, benefit, you know, or not feature, benefit, again, that's, it's, you know, benefit and curiosity, and then, you know, drive around in your car, or, you know, hopefully get inspired during your research. I wanted something that was like, okay, this is how you can use all the traditional concepts, stick it all together, spark ideas, and just start writing headlines right away. Okay, so does this make sense for everybody? Okay, that's. I'm sorry, I got distracted for half a second. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, first of all, if you had, you could just literally repeat the headline, because then they know that you're going to continue with what you said in the headline or in the subject line. But if you're doing Facebook ads, you have to use the truncated, shorter version. So you're going to have to prioritize those elements that I talked about first. This is one of those things that's going to be a judgment call based on how competitive the offer is. So like, let's suppose that everybody's in there and everybody's trying to sell them this stuff. You want to find out what's their big objection, and you want to find out like what's the one thing that they need more than else. Do they need believability? So that's the part that I would focus more on. So it's going to depend on niche to niche and and the competitors that are advertising. Okay, so in some cases, it is so copywriting, authority is going to be the one that is going to be one of those ones that I'm putting in there. Authority and proof are going to be what I need. And then the benefit of, or the curiosity, those are going to be the three that I'm going to focus on the most. And I would say those are three that a lot of niches that are heavily advertised are going to want to focus on the most, okay? But sometimes it'll be something where you're fortunate that you don't have a lot of competitors, and it might be a lot more about the benefit of it. So you're going to have to, again, test it, right? But I would try and rank those elements based on the experience of those people who've been looking for those solutions, right? So if I'm looking for a solution for putting on a new roof, my experience is going to be that this puts me through all of these different hoops. And so I'm going to turn around and say something that's going to reassure them that this isn't going to be a long hoop and a waste of my time that's going to make the price higher than it promised in the headline. So, it's going to depend on your niche and how your competitors have saturated the environment. Okay. Yeah. So you want to, when people zig, you zag. Okay. All right. So that's what I have for you.